What's up, everybody? Mark with Coffee&Toys here, bringing you another vintage G.I. Joe unboxing and review. That's right, it is Sunday, and Sunday means for the channel, I unbox vintage/classic G.I. Joe action figures. And for those that are new to the channel, welcome. For those coming back, welcome back. On Sundays, hopefully I get this video posted today. On Sundays, anything that could be from 1982 all the way through 2016, I consider vintage or classic, or I should say and/or classic figures. It gives me a chance to review figures that are not 6-inch classified scale, which most collectors of G.I. Joe are into right now. It gives us a chance to go back in the Wayback Machine, so to speak, and enjoy some of those classic and vintage figure unboxings. And that is what Sundays are all about. It lets me have a good punch of dopamine with nostalgia, that I can go back and open figures I used to have as a kid and some figures I didn't have as a kid or as a young collector. So with that being said, let's first talk about some coffee. So today's coffee is sponsored by coffeebrandcoffee.com. Make sure you check them out. They have a great and wide selection of coffees. They have flavored coffees, your dark roast, your light roast, your medium roast, which is actually what I'm drinking today. This is roast number 3. It is from Colombia, single origin, and I do enjoy it and I do need it. And with that being said, make sure you use discount code Coffee&Toys. That's COFFEENTOYS whenever you make your first order or any subsequent order. Save yourself 5%, help the channel out, and enjoy some good coffee. Now, with that all out of the way, today's figure we're going to review comes from 1994, and it is number 1 in the Battle Corps series for 1994, Flint. Let's talk about it. 1994, the end of the vintage run of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. Bittersweet to be doing this review today because I think back to my childhood and realizing at the time I did not know that was the end of G.I. Joe. I remember thinking there were other things competing for my interest at that time in 1994. I'm trying to think. It was probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was probably what was going on and probably what was at the forefront of my mind, but I was still collecting G.I. Joe. I remember picking up lots of Battle Corps figures. If you recall from the last video I did of the Flak Viper, he came out, I believe, in 93, and I remember purchasing him, Heat Viper. I should say my parents purchased them, but I remember still picking up G.I. Joes at that point. I never owned Flint. This is Flint version 4, by the way. Never owned Flint. I don't think I ever owned any of the Flint figures as a child, now that I think about it. I was more of a Ninja Force guy, so I had every Snake Eyes. I think I had Duke, but I never had Flint growing up. So it's going to be really fun to review this figure today, and if you aren't familiar with how we do this, here's the rundown. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to review the figure in the package, and then in real time, meaning I'm not going to cut away and then come back to the figure out of the package. We're actually going to open the figure up in real time. You're going to experience it as I experience it. And yeah, we're going to accessorize it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to give you some information on the figure that you might not necessarily remember if I can remember it. I have done a little bit of research on this figure since I didn't own it before. But yeah, I think with that being said, we need to hop over here and check out Flint Battle Corps style. Okay, here we have it. We have G.I. Joe Battle Corps Flint. He is the Desert Paratrooper, which is kind of a new thing for Flint. I don't recall Flint ever being a paratrooper, but that's the way they went with Flint for 1994. And I think it's important to note that we had just gotten a Flint a couple years earlier with the Eco Warriors. So it's very interesting they brought Flint back into this, and furthermore, that Flint was actually going to be featured in the 1995 lineup as well, which was going to be, if you're familiar with it, the Ninja Commandos. Flint was going to be part of that subgroup as well. So Flint's, went from being a warrant officer to a Eco Warrior to a Desert Paratrooper, and was going to be a ninja after that. So man, they were really pushing Flint hard near the end of the G.I. Joe A Real American Hero toy run. But as you can see right here, this is the packaging for the Battle Corps. So for the good guys, they have red lasers. The bad guys have good guys have blue lasers. Bad guys have red lasers. And we do see that he is number 1 in the series. We get the Battle Corps logo up here. And this actually came from let's see. Mills Fleet Farm for $2.69. You could have owned Flint back in 1994. Includes 8 accessories. And as you can see, they have in the background, you can see how you put him on his figure stand, how you use his weapon. This was when they were giving us spring-loaded weapons. And another little fun fact, to cut costs, they started just leaving the weapons on the plastic tree. And that was, I believe, if I remember correctly, that was a cost savings measure. Because you used to remember these figures, all their weapons were actually broken out and actually included in it. And then to cut costs, they were like, we'll give them more weapons, but we will keep the stand and all the weapons on the tree, and you will have to take them off yourself. Ages 5 and up warning right there. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is for the front. Let's go ahead and spin him around to the back. And as you can see, more G.I. Joe and Cobra recruits join the Battle Corps team. We got number 1 Flint. We got the cross sell with all the rest of the figures. I'm not going to go through them all, but I did own, I know I owned all the Cobras. I had Metalhead, Viper, and the Alley Viper. I might have had Shipwreck, I can't remember. And of course now I'm going to add Flint to my collection. Got our flag point. And up here is the big crossover with Street Fighter. Now I remember this, and I remember picking up a lot of the Street Fighter figures and thinking that was really cool, and they were the same scale as G.I. Joe. Of course down here we do see 2 Battle Corps vehicles. We get the the Cobra Scorpion and the G.I. Joe Manta Ray. Very cool, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's just the... is that the same one they used back in the day for the Cobra landing raft? Or is it actually a new one with just different pieces bolted on? I don't know. Down here at the bottom, we do see that Flint came with a file card. Dashel R. Fairborn. And we see that his primary military specialty is paratrooper operations. And secondary military specialty commando. Wichita, Kansas, grade WO2, warrant officer 2. Jumping out of a plane at 40,000 feet is easy. Landing in desert sand is the hard part. And of course, I'm not going to go through and read all this. But recall, I do always remember them putting these different numbers on here and telling you parts of the character, which I always thought was really cool. Telling you about his weapons, his gear, just very cool. Helped me learn things that, otherwise I wouldn't have never known. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the figure. Take one last look before I remove him from the package. Again, this is another, fairly nice card. I cannot tell you where I got it from, but man, that is it always hurts to open these up with these such pristine cards, but that's what we do on the channel. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get Flint out of his plastic prison. All right, there we go. Separate that card as best I can. And there we go. Figures, everything's falling out. Okay, there it is. That shows you how to use the spring-loaded missile. With that being said, I will zoom in so you can see it. Shows you how to use it. Fit helmet onto head. It's the final step. So let's get this out of the way for the moment. And let's get Flint front and center. I'm just going to pull him right into the camera. Couple things to note about this figure. Well, really just one thing. This is for folks that collect variants. There is a variant of this figure. And it seems like I probably have the more common one versus the variant. So what the difference is on this figure, the painting around the legs where these pouches are, on this figure are unpainted. But on some other figures, it is painted black on both legs. So this one's just missing a splash of color, so to speak. And I don't know if this is similar to whenever, if you remember, I did the video of the Alley Viper. I think I did a video of the Alley Viper. Maybe I didn't. I know he's been in the channel, though. The Alley Viper V3. Some of them had, if they were made in China, they had stripes on the leg. And if they were made in Indonesia, they did not have the stripes on the leg. Now, I don't know if this is the same thing. Maybe this was made in Indonesia, and that's why it doesn't have the stripes. So let's just find out real quick. Indonesia, very interesting. So I'm going to hypothesize that this, if it was made in China, China has the black around the extra paint applications. And if it's made in Indonesia, there's been a couple that have been missed. Certainly seems to line up. But that being said, I'm going to start with this face sculpt up here because I think this is a really good face sculpt for Flint. especially when you compare him to the other versions. Now, we know that the Eco Warrior version, he had a little bit longer hair, and obviously with the, let's see, we have the original version of Flint. What was the second version of Flint? Why am I drawing a blank there? If this is version 4 of Flint, version 1 would have been the Warrant Officer. Oh, Tiger Force. So yeah, I always picture Flint with the short hair. Generally, I picture him with brown hair from the cartoon, but black seems to be where it's at. But I do like this head sculpt a lot. Moving down the body, you can see he has 3 grenades attached to him, the unpainted legs, black boots, a couple of boot knives there. This is a fun figure. This is a fun... overall, just a fun-looking figure. A little plain, but, you know, it is what it is. If he's going to be a paratrooper and he's going to be paratrooping into the desert, or dropping into the desert, rather, this is the kind of the look you want to have. Interesting that one arm has no shoulder protection, the other side does. Don't really know what the story is behind that. But let me go ahead and set Flint down for a moment. And go ahead and pull the camera back so you can see what's going on down here. But we do have a few accessories, and we'll start with the, like I said, the tree for all the weapons is just printed out. Now, this is probably how they were always printed. They come out of the mold. They get the injection plastic put in. But instead of somebody in the factory tearing each one of these pieces off to cut costs, they basically said, nope, leave it on the tree, and the kids can break it off themselves. So that's actually what we have to do right now, is we have to go through this entire tree and break off every single thing. So we get the stand, we get the 2 rocket-firing missiles, or I should say missiles, and they snap right off. I mean, you just twist and they break right off the tree. But can you imagine somebody in a factory having to do this all day? It would be the most boring job you could possibly have. Ooh, now this one's going to be tough. Maybe. You know, it's surprising how, you know, we complain about classified figures having gummy weapons. This, for being 30 years old, is still very gummy. Man, that is not wanting to break. Afraid I'm going to break the tip of the gun off. There we go. Okay, we get another weapon. That one came off really easily. And then finally we get this gun, and this is they've made this gun a few times. I recognize it. It's interesting. I recognize the gun, but I don't recognize which figure it came with originally. I used to know this stuff. I could just look at an accessory and know whose it belonged to, and now I don't. So we have all these different weapons. We have this long rifle right here, a medium-sized rifle right here, and finally this almost like a stunted M16. I'm not sure what weapon this is, but it's probably the one I'm going to put in his hand. But I'll accessorize him in a minute. And then finally, he does have his spring-loaded weapon in bright orange. And for those that don't remember how to do this or want to trip down memory lane, you just put it in and you hear it lock. And let's just see if we can shoot Flint. I'm actually hiding it behind the camera. Let's see if I get how good my aim is. Man, that was a good shot. Okay, so that does work. And then, of course, Flint does come with his helmet, his paratrooper / desert helmet. Just in that light tan color with the black accent for the goggles. Very cool. So let's just go ahead and accessorize him. I mean, it's not too bad. If I was, 1994, I would have been, 12? Yeah. Probably just getting out of G.I. Joe at that point, or getting close to getting out of G.I. Joe. I do remember having them. Other things were becoming important at that point in my life, as I'm sure most people that were 12 years old know. So there we go. We get a nice little... There's what he looks like with that short gun in his hand. And I'll make sure to throw up what he's like in his alternate configurations. And then this monster thing fits in this hand. Yep. And then you can put him on a stand. And... there we go. So, that being said, I think this was a fun review. I enjoyed unboxing this figure with you guys. And yeah, glad I have him to add to my collection. He's actually, right now, because I don't have a whole bunch of vintage figures anymore, he's the only Flint I have in my collection. Very glad to be having him. I might display him without the helmet. I think it does look a little goofy nowadays. But hey, it's another fun figure. I guess the one thing I didn't check for you guys is solid O-ring after 30 years. Wow, 30 years. That's crazy. Yeah, let me know what you think of Flint. Did you own this figure as a kid? Did you own it as a kid? Do you own it as an adult? Do you like it? Is it your preferred Flint? Do you like the Eco Warriors one? Do you like the old school Warrant Officer version 1 Flint, Tiger Force Flint? Let me know in the comments below. But that being said, thank you for hanging out with me. Make sure you like this video. It really helps out the channel. Make sure you hit up coffee.com. Make sure to use that promo code Coffee&Toys and save yourself 5% on some really good tasting coffee, nuts, candies. They have all sorts of stuff over there. And I'll be back with you guys on Marvel Monday to review Real American Hero issues 4 and 5. We're going to do a double up for that week since I missed this last week's. Otherwise, I'm Mark. You've been watching Coffee with Toys, and I'll see you later.